Okay, welcome back, everyone. We have a special guest. Known him for quite a while. He's I can always refer to him as the retro dude. And if you've heard of Weird and Retro, especially if you've been to PAX or multiple events over the years, you'd probably know the name. You probably know the face as well. He does a lot of kind of showcasing retro stuff, and he's a big collector of many sort of retro things. So welcome. How are you?
Hey guys, yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So tell me about, the whole, where did Weird and Retro start?
Wow. Started quite a while ago. Its origins were where I had a little gaming cafe many years ago, under a different name, and then went to a podcast under a different name, and then onto community television where it really got. I was meant to do one segment on it. On just retro stuff, and it turned to be really popular, and I was asked to do it all the time, and then I was given the name Weird and Retro because all retro based, and we're bringing a lot of like weird things not seen before as well. So yeah, that's the name, and it's stuck ever since then. So that that name and form would have been about 13 years now or so, something like that.
Yeah. So it's like I've known you for quite a while, and you've been involved with my events, helping to raise money for charity. But you do a big collaborative setup at PAX. Can you tell us about that setup?
Yeah, sure. So we're involved with Oz Retro Gamer and Press Play on Tape to set up the gaming area at the classic gaming area at PAX. So that involves like all the classic gaming systems. And as my favorite thing, which I've been pushing since the beginning, is just the museum pieces. I love show and tell. That's how Weird and Retro in itself started. So I just love having that aspect of showing really either favorite things that you grew up with from your childhood, or really rare pieces that you might have only read about or seen online, or mainly from, like, say, overseas and things. So because I've been collecting a lot of gaming related collectibles, so not just games and systems but memorabilia as well. I like to have that on display and just share that with people, and we get into a lot of conversations. That's probably my favorite thing about PAX, is just meeting fellow gamers and collectors and just losing yourself in conversation over various pieces and memories and so forth.
Yeah, it's always my favorite area, and I always say to people that if they ask me if I'm going to that event, I said, look, if you're going to find me, go to the retro area, because that's where I'm probably going to spend 90% of my time. So even if it's just hanging out, watching other people play, or just chatting, I think it might have been last year. One of the things I was really impressed was the old CRT TV that was set up, that was playing, trailers and things.
Yep.
I love that. I had a few people go,
yeah, that was a big hit. Yeah, everyone commented on that as well.
Yeah, people go, oh, what? Okay, because it's an old TV and it's done like that. It's just, it just really, how it was done, it really, I was
for a few years now, I've been contemplating bringing the my 1970s JVC orange Videosphere TV.
Oh, yes.
And I've only brought it to your event before.
Yes.
And I've been quite hesitant to bring it out because it's in absolute pristine condition. I've sourced one that was at the time, which was over 7 years ago, 24 I think years, was just sitting there as a display, so not being used. So it was given to someone as a present who repairs TVs and monitors, and they never used it even new. They just had it up in a corner as a beautiful display, so it's in pristine condition. So I'm a bit hesitant to bring it out, but you of course got to see it and play with it.
Yeah, see, I probably wouldn't. I think because I've looked at those things just out of just being curious, just looking online about that sort of gear, because it's so cool looking, and it's like, look at the price and go, wow, that's a lot of money people are asking for, even for broken ones.
Yes. And it's the concern is, even if I'll get, say, money to replace it, just finding one in that condition is pretty much near impossible. So that's more of the concern than just finding one, which is hard in itself, but just one that's wow. about over 40 years old.
Yeah.
That's in pristine, hardly ever used condition.
Yeah.
That's like striking gold.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave the house if I had one. So why retro? Why is it, why this kind of interest with retro? I know there's a group of you that all, really love this sort of stuff, but what is the thing that really keeps you going about that? It's not like I always find with yourself and others in Weird and Retro and Australian Retro Gamer and all those sort of groups is the new stuff isn't really a priority as much, unless it's a port or a homage to a classic retro game. You keep going, like, retro is so huge as in the catalog of stuff there. But what's the appealing part of it?
Well, I started with retro years ago when a lot of people had it and weren't really interested in it. So from the beginning, I liked to attain things that were very hard to get, very rare and or expensive. It doesn't mean it's all the rare is expensive, but generally it is. But I wanted to have something as a showcase to show people and share with them what they might have seen and wanted as a kid and never been able to attain, which is, of course, what's happening these days. Well, like a classic example is when I started selling and redirecting money into other collections. Biggest thing in the last, say, year and a half has been PS1, because now those that have grown up with it a long time ago, like as kids, started out with the PS1 and then they got over and then they get into gaming now, and now they're getting that retro collecting bug, and it's retro for them is PS1. So they've got disposable income. It's taking them back to a time when they had, it was a different life for them, maybe met their best friends, couch co-op on Street Fighter Alpha or Wipeout or Pandemonium or something, and now they want to, or maybe they've seen some games that they wanted to get all the time before, which they couldn't get. So now we're in a position in life where they can relive some of those memories, and basically with the online communities on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, with your social media, they can meet a lot of other people with shared interests and discover new things, share new things, and just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I've noticed that it's like when a 20 odd plus year sort of period kind of passes, what was around that time kind of starts to fall into, well, now that's considered, that's retro now. As in for that generation, like you spoke of, where for many of us, it kind of feels like yesterday, because we kind of go, oh, well, we think retro is, SNES or Atari or, ColecoVision or anything like that. Or N64. So it's interesting seeing that sort of wave move through. So one thing is, because I've been looking at that for quite a while, is that I don't really see as, like, I see original PS1 consoles around of various types, but I don't actually see that many PS1 games. Do you know why that is?
No, I have, look, I do come across them, but I tend to go, like, I'm about to put up my PS1 collection, except for the favorites and things that I'm working on and having on a go for events and little special features. Pretty much the rest of my PS1 collection is going up for sale. But my PS1 collection is like a collector's collection. So almost everything is either mint condition, all complete, original black label releases, uncracked cases, like just absolute mint. But for me, so I've got a harder time collecting that because there's a lot less of that, like you say, but even in what's available, that's really hard to come by.
Yeah.
So I think people are just holding on to a lot of it. So a lot of it is still like, you'll see things for sale go up from, their mum and dad's house. They've just rediscovered something from when the kids, when they were living with them. And I've seen actually just the other day someone's SNES collection that their parents found. So a lot of these still in hiding. The consoles, I don't know, for some reason that they are going out, but people might have had a few consoles. Like myself, I collect a lot of multiple consoles for events. But now I was letting go of consoles as well as games. But in the wild, I can't really answer that because, maybe people are just holding on to their games, but I don't see much. And what I do see is often overpriced at things like cash converters and such. So maybe people tend to hold on to them thinking they're a lot more pricier than what or value of what they are.
Yeah, look, I've seen that where I've had people come to me and they said, "Oh, look, PS2, you've got a few PS2 games." I go, "Yeah," and they go, "Oh, I've got this game," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah," and they go, "Oh, $90," and I go, I could get it online for like $2, in really good condition. So it's not like trying to buy a sealed packaged game from 35 years ago. That's
Absolutely.
it's some sort of Zelda game that people really, really want, and it's up there. It's like this is just
what I just found a tub of factory sealed Atari 2600 games. I've got about 30 of them, I think. So
yeah.
there's stuff in my Aladdin's cave of retro game. I'm not even sure what I have. It's just tubs. It's like walls of tubs, and I just take them out every few years and just have a look. Yeah. But again, that goes to collecting from decades ago when people weren't into this stuff, where you could get, like Atari 7800 for like $40, $100 and stuff. Whereas now they go for hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yes.
So it's all about getting in. It's hard to get in now because there's so many collectors.
Yes.
Even and especially with harder to get things because now there's more people collecting, more people with disposable income. So I was just lucky to to have that back then. But yeah, the difference in price can vary based on same game complete, but one's in better condition, one's not. You can get a lot more depending on what the game is based on condition alone.
Yeah, and but yeah, it's interesting because I think there is that. I think there's like you get two different crowds. You get those who are collectors who collect because they enjoy the hobby, they enjoy the games, and then you get those who are trying to collect because they think I'm going to hold on to this, and in 5 years' time it's going to be worth like $6,000, and it's like it's not the case. And in some cases you can get some products they actually for maybe a couple of years they go up in price and then no one cares anymore, and the price absolutely crashes. And you see that with toys as well. I remember seeing this one about this Marvel line from the 90s, and it was apparently when you bought them they were like $20 each. And then 10 years later, people really wanted them and they were paying $100, $130 more American for them. And then, people held on to them and they went, "Oh, I'm going to sell them now." And then they're like, "This is like worth $5 now because no one cares."
Some of them come in waves. And if you can catch the wave, that's good. But if you hold on too long, you just, crash out. So.
You can miss the boat. So, but I think, with a lot of things that, it's, they're there to be enjoyed. If you're someone who likes to go, "Well, I don't want to open them, but I like them on the shelf," and that's what you want to do, that's cool too. Because, and
I know quite a few collectors like that.
Yeah. And I did have a few like that, that were promotional copies of nothing too retro or anything like that. But they were, opened by smaller hands because they wanted to play it. And I was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. He's playing it now." But it's like, but you do realize there's an open version on the second shelf. So,
oh no, yeah,
yeah. But it wasn't anything, nothing major sort of thing. I was like,
nothing to scream about. That
I was like, "Oh, I didn't want to open that," but it was like there was no real monetary value, and it wasn't that. It was more like, I just want this. It'd be good to look at this in 20 years' time and go, "It's still sealed." But no, they were like, "No, I wanted to play it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, it's doing what it's made to do."
You can look at both opened ones and now have the memory of it being sealed from 20 years ago.
So it was like, okay. So now, usually with your social media, your Twitter account, that's the one that's, gets a lot of traffic and moves a lot. But from a visual thing, I think it was easier to look at the Instagram version, which hasn't been around as much as long, because I thought that'd be easier to show on the video. So if you're interested in following, Weird and Retro on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, here's the links. So I just want to ask about the third image that you've got there, where it looks like a containers of games and whatever. What are we seeing there?
Here, that was taken to one of the club meets when I was just trading and selling some games. So that was, I believe that was at the Amiga users group that they meet on the third Sunday of every month.
Yep.
Not for a little while now, but they just restarted yesterday, which I attended as well, which was really great. And there's also another group that I'd like to shout out, Retro Tuesday, which meets at the same place in Melbourne but the first Tuesday of every month. Now they're doing things virtually until they can reopen and facilitate that. But yeah, that's a few of the different club meets we go to and attend and play, and sometimes have things for sale or trade. And yeah, that's the last one I went to, which was, well, as it says, 14 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that had some things for sale and other things that just people were interested in that I set up so they can have a look at.
Yeah. So that's, you know, on in you can see there it's a dark one. That's Commodore 64. Am I right?
No, that's the earlier one. I think that was the is it the Vic?
The Vic 20? Is it Vic 20?
Vic 20, sorry. Yeah, yep. Vic 20, yeah. 16K Vic 20, yeah. So that one, I actually, someone really liked it. It wasn't working. And I said, look, man, he was like, he was into tinkering and fixing things. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I think he was like, I just got talking to him. I said, look, mate, you can have it for $25. So he was just over the moon. And, you know, I gained the joystick, which needed a little bit fix on the plugs and that. But he was just absolutely over the moon. And just getting to chat to him for a while and, you know, just making those connections. For me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, I don't think I ever seen a Commodore 64 that color, because I recognized the joystick because I had friends who had that joystick for their C64, and the tape drive is fairly similar to the and the keyboard really similar to the
yes, and it did not come with a power supply. That's why it was so cheap as well. But you can easily get a lot of places now that do the new power supplies for old systems.
Yes.
Yeah, he was gonna.
And they would be a lot more.
Yeah, that was a bit of a smorgasbord that turned quite a few heads.
Yeah. But yeah, getting newer power supplies for these would be a lot more reliable than having to use something that's, you know, close to 40 years old and having a short or, you know, burning out.
Yep. And now a lot of them are between 100 to 240 volt with just different wall adapters to plug in. Different plugs for the walls to plug in, depending on whether you're in Europe or, you know, America or Australia. So you pretty much just buy the one system and it comes with a multi-plugs, and they sell it worldwide. And instead of having those massive bricks to lug around and a bit of hot fire hazards, you know, it's all modern tech, and it powers your old retro systems.
All right. Do you want to just scroll down a little bit and let's have a look at a few more sort of things? Because, like, you know,
here's one that I love. This is a American, if it pops up with our connection, but it's the first one here is there we go. It's a collection of 4 different steel books for Mortal Kombat. They were North American exclusives, and I finally, after many years of trying to get them complete with the actual cards to come with them. I'm a massive Mortal Kombat fan, so yeah, I had to get that. But yeah, a bit of a smorgasbord. I've got a lot more photos I've taken that I've got to upload. But probably one of my personal favorite collections is from the video game company Treasure, and this is a couple of items: Gunstar Hero, Silhouette, Mirage, and a lot of rarities. Like I said, I like to collect rarities. So in the middle, in the box is still a watch that was a prize giveaway that someone won from the company. Little pins and so forth. So I like to collect personally a lot of the memorabilia that comes with the games, that shows the history of the game, of the games companies, and of the era as well, like with the different designs and things. So that's a personal joy that I love from the beginning, which is actually kind of good to get into now, because if you can get these things, they tend to hold value, because a lot of people just don't collect them. Same as posters for people that collect video gaming posters from back in the day. They're worth quite a bit now as well. But that's something that a lot of people don't even really think about in terms of investments. They just go for games or systems. But there's a lot of retro to collect, and yeah, quite fun to do so. Yeah. But yeah, that's if there's anything you wanted to have
yes. Let's go look at something else. Let's go scroll down a bit. If what's that?
Oh, here's that orange. Here's the TV that I brought to one of your events.
Oh yes. Oh, there you go.
The JVC Video Sphere, and with that is a very a rare piece of original Atari computing history. That's the Atari 800 4-port. Out of all the years I've been looking, that's the only one I found. And it comes with, they had some really interesting stuff, Atari that brought out, like Atari Lab series. We can do science experiments for basically high schoolers, or even primary school kids, So again, that's something weird and retro, something quirky, something not really seen. And that's something I bought those new and sealed, but I had to open them up to have a look. It's just too much fun. Yeah,
well, this is showing my age. When I started high school, I remember them being, because we had one computer lab, and they were all Atari computers, and they had the little area to put the cartridge in, and they were more like a silver big buttons. So the whole lab was Ataris, and then so it would have been around 20 in there. And then around...
What year was that, roughly? Is it in the early 90s?
80s.
80s. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they were replaced by Apples. And they were all very, very sleek. There was a big difference in the look of, between the Atari I was about to say Atari 260, the Atari computers. I remember looking at them and going, wow, there's an area we can put a cartridge in here, and there's these big silver buttons on the side. But yeah, there was the only computer lab at the school, and we were considered pretty advanced for the area. And yeah, it was over 20 of them, all it's all sitting next to each other. And
it's crazy because I came later with that with the Ataris. My schools went in the opposite way. We had, but you're talking about 8 bits. This was with later with 16-bit replacements. But my school had my high school had Apple IIes, so the green screen Apple IIes.
Yes.
And then in 1991, I believe. Yeah, 1991, they replaced them all with Atari 1040 ST computers, 16-bit computers. Wow. And I was lucky enough to have one myself. Yeah. So I did all the homework. This is still one of my best high school memories. I've completed the whole term, the whole term project in one weekend at home. So by the time I got to the second class and I just basically put everything out, he basically didn't have anything to give me for the rest of the time. And I got to play, I convinced the teacher to let me play games in the corner. So while everyone else was doing schoolwork, I was playing video games on my Atari ST. Yeah,
like I remember the Atari.
Great times.
There was a few things on there we could play, like an early Choplifter, and I think it was like a Lunar Lander sort of game. That was about it. But most of the time we were like, no, you're supposed to be learning about bits and bots and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah. So let's scroll down and have a look at some of these other images you've got there. So you've got, there's some tubs full of games. Where you can find some of your you got any Jaguar pictures here? Because I know that's always been your passion. Atari Jaguar.
Yes, I will have a look. Yeah, that's some of the tubs I took out for just going through, and that's certainly not all of them, but that just gives you an idea of sort of my storage collection. And that's the sad thing. They're all being stored away. I don't have them on display yet, but when we get to move out, I'll finally get to display them. But in terms of the Jaguar, which I absolutely love and adore, I've got one I can come back to, but I'll see if I've got an actual full picture, and it doesn't look like it. I do have, this is what I started with, and this is one of the first collection. Not first, but one of my greatest collections I completed. It's the 8-bit Atari XE game system. And this is what started me out in gaming for myself. And my father bought me this system just that you see in the middle from Dandenong Maya in 1987. And it's taken me, as I put in there, 29 years to get the whole set complete, because some of these games are very rare to find in the boxes.
Yeah.
Like Karate Kart took me years and years to find sealed complete. Whereas on another, say, Atari 7800 or 2600, I could pick that up anytime I want. So yeah, that's one of my pride and joys. That's the full series you see there. In terms of Jaguar, yeah, there's a couple of boxes and box CDs, and just to show you how much of a Jaguar nut I am, there's some of my Jaguars in the photo there with the CD units. The one in the middle with the ribbon cable, that's developer unit, developer CD unit. I've just pretty much got anything and everything for Jaguar, the complete set. But yeah, it's taken a long time to get, but again, I was lucky to get into it when most people didn't want to, and now basically it's I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah, well, like,
even though I was getting bagged for collecting it before, now everyone wants it.
Yeah, well, like you were like the first person I really came across that had substantial amount of retro gear. Like, you know, I'd always heard about people having a couple of things from their childhood, or they picked up something because they always wanted it. But you're the, you know, when I usually refer to I think of retro or I talk about retro, it's always you. So yeah, it's amazing. And also, like, that's the great thing about all of the meets you've done, all the events, all those things that also raise money for charity as well, is that, you know, people can see these things, and like you've also made it available for people to actually come and actually touch these things. You know, it's and that's the thing is with older systems, it's like, you know, do I let the public have a play with it and then risk someone being a bit rough or just breaking, you know, or do I just go, no, I'm gonna keep it back? But you've always been fairly open with kind of showing, you know, a lot of things and people there, because I know a lot of events that I've done that you were at, it was, you know, a big crowd pleaser, and people were always very excited because you either had the younger ones, the teenagers going, oh yeah, I'm getting into that, or I like that, and then the parents going, I had that and let me have a go because I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and yeah, that's one thing I get commented from a lot of other collectors and big collectors saying, oh wow, you're pretty brave, like putting that stuff out for, not that the museum pieces in display cabinets is one thing, but to have people play and use them is yeah, a lot of people can't believe I do that, particularly like, say, and you would have seen at your events, I'd bring in, like, say, a Jaguar, which is expensive in itself, but like a Jaguar CD unit, like nowadays they sell for like $800 to $1,000, you know. So Pro controllers, which are the better controller for the Jag. So I had that out because it's you get a much better feel on it. But I mean, that's a difference between, like, say, a $50 controller and a $350 controller. But you know, sometimes especially if I know the type of crowds or where I'm going and people are more respectful, I will bring that and get people to enjoy. And then other places I wouldn't. So you also gauge on what event it is. And
yeah, like 3 years ago, I ran an event at a primary school and basically just took over the whole day. And I had, you know, Ataris and NESs on display, and we had all these arcade games set up. So, and it was all very much influenced that, because I think Ready Player One had just been out. So when the kids would come into this area to play, because they had them, because being a whole school, they broke it up into sections. We had cosplay and everything else. So I basically turned their primary school into a big Comic Con thing. So when they walked in, it was playing New Order or Van Halen or all that sort of music, and they all thought that was great. And I had all these things on display, and I would talk, and then it was funny because this is the thing that's about sharing about retro, is people understand where the technology came from and how much it's advanced or how much it's changed. So I had this Atari 2600, and I'm talking to this group of kids who are like maybe 6 years old, and and they're like, I'm like, okay, so this is Atari 2600, and I tell them, and they go, so where does the movies go? And I go, no, there's no movies go in this. It's a cartridge, and the files are really, really small. They can only do that. How do you connect to the internet? And I said, well, look, when this came out, internet didn't exist. There was no social media. You couldn't connect to games. And the whole room was aghast. They were like, oh, and you could hear them like, they were horrified. And it was funny because I was like, the teachers were laughing because they were like, some were older going, oh yeah. But all these kids were not exposed to these older tech. So it was like, oh no, there was once a time when there was no internet and you stick this thing in and because I had one kid put one in and they're like, oh, wow. So it just, where's the CD and I go, that's it. And I'd bring up the game and they're like, oh, and the thing is, the kids love the games. They thought the games are really great. The gameplay, a lot of these things hold up, even 40 years later. But it was funny about the tech, showing them like a SNES or an NES or a Sega Mega Drive and trying to explain how gaming used to be, even with cassette tape gaming. And they were like, oh, and I had to, the only way I could relate to them, they could relate to it. I said, you know, when you get a game and you put it at home and it asks for this big update and you've got to wait like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, that's what gaming on cassette was for us many years ago.
Every time you put it on.
But every time they put it on. And they were like, well, what? And I go, and sometimes it didn't work. And they're like, oh, like, you know, how could you exist without having that instant gratification of being able to play straight away? And I'm like, well, you'd go off and make your microwave donuts and your soda stream. And, you know, if you're at mate's house, or do something else. And then you'd wait for that screen, if you were using Commodore 64, to slowly appear, which was part of the appeal. And I said, the only way you found out about new games, say if you got summer games or winter games, these little things would come across the bottom, like old Ticket Tech, and it would say, coming soon, California games. And you're like, oh, wow. And that is the only way, especially when you're young, because you may not have the money to go buy a gaming magazine.
Yeah, which were a bit pricey for a kid back then.
Yeah. So
it's funny you say that because I remember on my best friend's Commodore 64, it was Goonies. Goonies would take 40 minutes to load.
Yeah.
So we were outside playing, you know, on the BMX or doing something, coming back 40 minutes. And Goonies was notorious. I still have only played it out of all the years we've been best friends only one time. When it loaded. All the other times it wouldn't load. He'd play it like after a few loads, but otherwise, you know, it's time to go home. So I can't stay there for too long.
Well, that was many times. I'd be at a friend's house and we'd load up the game, and you know, most of the time, it was all revolved around, okay, this is time to make food, and then but on the few times where we were just sitting there talking, waiting for the load, or you just be sitting there watching it, listening to the music, like Rambo, you know, I think that was one of the few games that we played a lot that we were quite happy to just sit there listening to the din-din-din-din-din music playing and it opening and just sit there quietly watching it. But there was many occasions you'd put in a game and you're waiting for it and the game starts after you've been waiting 20 minutes and you both look at each other and go, this is awful. We've just lost 30 minutes basically, and you do want to play this? And you're like, not really, no.
Well, I know. Well, there's a developer called Reboot that they're a great developer doing Atari Jaguar projects, and on one of their CD games when you'd load it up, and I was actually at Oz Retro Gamers' house with my best friend, like Jerry as well, from the one I used to play Commodore 64 over 30 years ago, and we just opened up this game and popped it in the CD drive. And they did a beautiful ode to the demo scene. You know, like you had the scrolling waves, you had that music. And we were there for, I kid you not, over 10 minutes just enjoying the music and reading what's on the scrolls. And we actually got into the game. So, yeah, that was fantastic. Good times.
But like, that's the thing is people, you know, when they look at all this stuff, they get a better understanding of the technology, or they go, okay, so that's where 8-bit comes from. You know, why, you know, when they see a promotion for Atari Jaguar and the promotion about, you know, different bits and, you know, how powerful they're going, what does that mean? You know, because, you know, that a lot of that, what people talk about then, you don't really hear about now.
That's right.
So, yeah, even if it's like a Nintendo game that kind of emulates that sort of look, you don't usually hear that lingo as much. But also, yeah.
And it's funny, like when you say about that tech and the development, and sometimes we do this, and probably one of the biggest ones we've done was at EB Expo, and we in Retro, we're the sole providers of everything retro gaming at all the EB Expos all around Australia, so all interstate ones, we'd bring it up and down. And one of them, on one of the years, we created an interactive museum. So from the 2600, and it goes in like a snake line through different rooms with museum cabinets in between for the different eras. And you'd see, you'd play, you jump from system to system, and we did from 2600 up to then when it was current, the 360, PS3 and Wii. And that was quite interesting for a lot of the younger kids. And that's when you'd see the parents taken through, and it was the parents teaching them about the older stuff, and a lot of the kids going to the parents about the newer stuff. It was great to see, and it's great to open people's eyes like that, of where the tech, like where it comes from and how it's developed over the decades.
Yeah. Well, you've done some amazing displays, like at one of my events many years ago, and you took over a complete lab that would normally hold 25 machines, and you had a massive home front LAN.
Yes.
On how many 360s was that?
16, because we so that was fantastic, where it was a lot of work. So for the 7-day event, 5 to 7 days, each day we created a different themed event for those different days. The main one was the home front. So we basically, I spent a lot of time looking at the game, like inside the game, taking photos of the game, buying things off eBay, buying the posters, buying the flags, cutting them out in the same shapes, getting chicken wire, separating the two LAN events from like the Allies versus the Invaders. And it was actually, that was probably the best reception we've ever, it was just jaw dropping.
And you had all the military webbing up too.
That's right, military webbing, because it was based on that. So it was actually also one of my absolute favourite things to put together. It was one of the ones that took the most work, but everyone enjoyed it, and it was something just very, very unique. And I don't think I've even got that posted up here. Although this was actually a promo from back then. Those were all the novels, and we were giving away novels as well as prizes. And that was the 16 games that you could play, full 16-player LAN. And that's one of the other things we do, a lot of retro gaming LANs. We do that also about twice a year at Retro Tuesday, and we do a special Tuesday on it. So instead of the first one, Tuesday of the month, we do, say, the third one, and do it about twice a year, where we set up a retro LAN. And that always gets a lot of positive feedback, because no one really does anything like that. Or has all the games to put together for that.
Well, that's the big difference, I think, from gaming from these generations. It's like when you look at LANs, well, these days it's like, you can play against your friend, but you need an internet connection, and you're playing it's not a localized game, it's going through there. And if you don't have an internet connection, you can't play, as opposed to a lot of these games where some of them were just simply networking two consoles together, and you needed 2 TVs or more, and you play independently. And that's one thing I find interesting, is that a lot of these games that did have that LAN capability also have campaigns. And I'm seeing more and more games that are coming out these days that are multiplayer online, but don't have campaigns. And I was discussing this with someone recently, going, well, when those companies shut those servers down for those games in maybe 3 years' time, you've got games that you can't do anything with, that you can't play because there's no campaign. You can't do a single player, and you can't play multiplayer because those servers are gone.
That's right. And if Jason from New Game Plus is watching this, he'll probably shake his head. But that exactly describes my absolute favorite game on the PS3, which was Mag. And see, this is another poster I've collected. It was massive action game. It was 256 players online.
Yeah.
It was sort of like Battlefield, but it was just absolutely amazing. PS3 exclusive, and it was online only, but they didn't offer LAN. So when that shut down,
that's getting a bit of lag from your end. So could you hold that poster back up again? Yeah. There we go. Yeah. All right, now, yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. So there we go. Massive action game. So online only, no LAN. They took it down, and the game is basically lost to history now. So it's very unfortunate. It was if they had, this is how crazy I can get. If they were going to do LAN, I was going to get 256 copies and actually do a full event in conjunction with Sony. But unfortunately, that they never released. Some people they do the online. If it goes well, they might do a LAN patch. But no such luck, unfortunately. Yeah,
well, that's the one thing that, over the last probably 2-3 years, I'd been going out looking for, if I was going places like an EB or somewhere, and they had system-linked games, mostly for the 360. Like, I've grabbed extra copies of Homefront, but it's like, okay, well, I've got so many copies of Halo or Gears of War, but I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to get some more. So it's like, if that one ever mixes up, I've got extra ones. But yeah, going through and finding more system link ones and going, okay, I'm going to get this. Because I've had people go, oh, but don't you have this? And I go, yeah, but I want to have, if I want to set up, 6 360s up, and I want to play, some aerial battle game or, whatever from that era, I can. Now, you had your precious Gauntlet arcade machine up there before.
Did I?
Yeah. I think it was down a little bit. I know we're having a bit of a lag with the things today, so everyone else has been patient.
Find it.
Yeah, I think it was down a little bit further.
Let's have a look. Okay. I might not have.
No, I saw it.
Oh, did you? Okay. I know. Yes. Gauntlet 2. Yes.
No, your arcade machine. There it is.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Gauntlet 2. There
it is.
Yeah. Sorry.
Gauntlet 2. Yeah. So this is probably my greatest ever adventure. Gauntlet 2 is, like we were talking about, like LAN gaming, and I've got obviously like all copies of, like, say, 16 copies of Halo 2, so to do a full multiplayer. This is what got me into multiplayer back in 1980s, mid to late 80s. So this is actually from around 1987, original Gauntlet 2 4-player arcade cabinet, and that's the US one imported. That's changed to Aussie coin slots and Aussie power supply. And this was my favorite adventure, getting this from Adelaide with 4 of my closest friends, gaming friends, and we slept about 2 hours in 2 days going up and down, collecting it. And I love this. And seeing that in the mid 80s, when I walked into, it was Factory of Fun in Dandenong, arcade place, and seeing 4 players at the same time just absolutely blew my mind. So this is what got me into multiplayer gaming, and I had to have it. I always wanted it, and finally tracked it down after decades. Not trying to be
having a pun, but yeah, it was a game changer for that time, because you did have games that went from 1 player to 2 player. And the 2 player was usually, if it was like, okay, you're the second player playing a traditional kind of Space Invader style sort of thing. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, you play a different character that has different abilities. And then all of a sudden you had 4, and then you had that colossal X-Men game that was, as big as a house. And I think that had 10 players or something, and it's like, you didn't see many around, because I think a lot of places were like, this is going to take up a lot of real estate, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's massive. And if no one's using it, we're going to luck out. But I remember looking at it just going, wow, I can be on the other side of this, and there's sometimes 7 other people playing I don't know, but we're all going in the same mission. So Gauntlet 2, what's your favorite character? What's the character you always go back to?
Green Elf. That's it. It's got to be a green elf.
Not the barbarian?
No. So in the first one, first Gauntlet, you could on the arcade machine. So you'd have the different colors represented always the same character.
Yep.
In Gauntlet 2, you could change. You could have 4 of the same but in different color. So that was one of the advancements. But it's always been green elf for me. Even when I got the 4-player adapter for the Atari ST and played an almost arcade perfect version of it, I would always select green elf.
Yeah, I used to always go with barbarian mainly because I used to pretend he was He-Man. So, but
you know what?
Yeah,
I will not be able to look at him ever again without thinking He-Man.
Yeah, I used to go. Yeah, I used to think, oh, this is like kind of like Master Universe. So it's like, oh well, Valkyrie is Teela, you know.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, Green Elf. I used to kind of go, oh, he could be an Orko, and and the Wizard. I can't remember what character I kind of connected it to, but yeah, it was. Yeah, mostly I would go, no, because we'd play and they'd go, oh, I suppose you want to be a barbarian again. I go, yeah, because it's secretly in my head, it was like, He-Man. So, yeah. And then, of course,
you've just taken my favorite game and just improved it like 100 folds.
and when you saw Black Death, that was Skeletor. So,
okay, wow. And speaking of which, actually, you've seen this. You're one of the people to have seen this.
Yeah.
And I believe it's just up here. But this is, wow, this took me a long time to get.
Your break poster?
This is the original 1986, I believe, break Masters of the Universe poster, which you could get from your local tuck shop.
Yep.
And then the stickers that you'd find were on the break fruit drinks that you buy in like back then Woolworths or elsewhere. Yeah. And that's taken me forever to pick one.
Yeah, you take the sticker off the side of the little Tetra Pak, and then you could stick it on that, because all through that time you had there was a lot of different franchises where you'd get stickers on the side of your chocolate milk or your fruit juices, and they would have the equivalent of that. I can still remember, and I've seen them online as well, people selling the wrappers, is the Master Universe chocolate that had the tattoo inside the wrapper, that you'd put a coloured tattoo on it. Yeah. So they were similar to those drawings on the...
I have not seen those. I don't even remember those.
They came out at the same time. It was like, furry animals chocolate, those little blocks of chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. They all come in a big row and they're like really thin, like Cadbury. Yep. Same style packaging. It would come in packs like that, and you'd get He-Man and Skeletor and Man-at-Arms and all that all on the covers, and it'd be just a piece of chocolate. You'd eat it, and then when you opened it up, there was this coloured tattoo that you could stick on your arm of He-Man, Skeletor, and all those sort of characters. So
in the Balkans. In the Balkans, they still do that. This is these are chocolates that you get little stickers off and stuff. Yeah. And you put into I think it's called Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
And I'll still get those. I still get those imported, but I don't see them around in the shops here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was a lot of the time I think for the parents, for all us kids, to keep us out of the house, they would buy all these things, stack the fridge full of them, the cupboard full of all those Master Universe chocolates, and you'd be running around playing, and you'd come in, and if parents decided they wanted us to go away, we don't want to make you lunch, we'd be like, well, we're just eating and drinking this. So we were so hyped up on sugar, but it was the same thing of like, but I got this sticker and I've got this, wet it, and it puts a fake tattoo on my arm. So I remember we used to collect them all. I never actually, I don't think I ever remember seeing, I knew the poster existed. I don't think I ever saw it physically around that time, but I saw everything else. But I've seen a lot of people selling them online where they've gone, oh yeah, I just happen to keep all these wrappers. So, but I remember, the chocolate was just like, a very thin Cadbury's chocolate.
One of these Master of Universe break posters just sold months ago, I think it was, for $500.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And that's because it was exclusive to Australia. So all the big Motu collectors around the world, they obviously want it. It's a beautiful poster as well. The one that sold, I did have all the 20 stickers stuck on them. But I've been even just trying to find one sticker. And these are rare as hen's teeth. These.
Yeah.
And it's also, I love those days and the trades with your friends, and because they were stuck on the break juice box, you'd cut out the actual back of the box and just trade in cut out juice boxes. So
plus, also a lot of people. They'd stick them all over their cupboards, all over their lunch boxes and all that sort of stuff. And over time, when those cupboards were got rid of, all the stickers would go too. So that was a big thing with a lot of retro things. It's like, I remember my sister's cupboard was covered in all different types of stickers and stuff. And I thought it was really interesting because I think one of the last stickers she actually put on her cupboard, and this would have been late 80s, was Soundgarden. And it was weird because I was like, hang on, Soundgarden wasn't really known not for another couple of years. And she was like, oh yeah, I've heard of Soundgarden, I've got this sticker. I'm like, wow, you're probably one of the only few people probably at that point when Soundgarden had first started that you had a Soundgarden sticker and you knew who they were. So this was years before Black Hole Sun. But that's the thing is with retro, it's like, it's looking at the merchandising, the technology, the collectibles, the exclusives that are only available in certain sort of countries, and that's one thing is you see those rarities. And I think a lot of people don't realize, especially in Australia, that, if they go hunting around your parents' house or your grandparents' house, you'll find a lot of these things. It's like I think there was an insurance commercial. It's on TV at the moment, and there's a grandfather talking, and this is on TV at the moment, and the kid's playing with Master Universe toys, but they're early 80s Master Universe toys. It's He-Man, Battle Cat.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember watching it going, hang on, and he's like, oh yeah, the kid's playing. I'm like, obviously the director in that is probably people of our age, and went, oh, I'll just bring these in. So the little kids playing with toys that are, close to 40 years old, and they look, brand new. But that's I think the interesting thing.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's on quite regularly. You'll watch it. It's some sort of insurance or superannuation commercial. You'll see an older gentleman talking. There's a kid playing with toys. As soon as you see it, you'll go, oh, hang on, there it is. So, but that's one thing. Yeah.
The funny thing is with these stickers, that we're talking about stickers and collecting and posters, that's how I, like in AFL, I go for Richmond Tigers. And the way I picked them was based on the stickers on the break poster when we came to Australia in 84. Yeah. And by 85, I remember a primary school kid and goes, hey, what's your favourite team? And, it was Richmond Tigers. And I remember that because I love the old Richmond Tigers logo with the tiger jumping out at you. And that was found on the back of these break stick. It was a sticker on a break. Yeah. So it's funny how from that to this day, there's a connection with that as well.
Well, that's interesting because it's like for a lot of merchandise or anything, connected to any of these periods, usually a kid's first introduction was something like that. And something as simple as a sticker could be something that ends up turning them into a lifelong fan of that club or that genre or that TV show, because it was something that was in front of them. They went, oh, it's like, oh, it's a bear, it's a tiger. It's like, for my sister, when she was growing up, she was a big fan in NRL of the Balmain Tigers. It's because someone gave her a Balmain Tigers jersey, and she liked the whole tiger thing. Yeah. And then, through early high school, she used to go to the training, she'd go to the games with all these other Tiger supporters. And it was just that. Yeah. It's amazing how that sort of thing changes up. So, and like I always see you as a archivist, curator of retro. Like, we've always done the Antique Roadshow, what we used to do with Retro Roadshow. But, even though we originally did that as a bit of a parody, it was extremely popular, but it was also, I think it was fairly legit because people kind of saw that as that. So, yeah. Now, one thing I was going to ask you is like movies and TV,
Yeah.
What's your like we can go back to your childhood and say what influences, but talk about also things that you're playing and watching now.
Okay, well, one of the ones I'm really excited for, one of my favorites is The Matrix, and I'm very excited for number 4 coming out. But looking at the overall sphere of my favorite movies from my childhood are still the favorite ones I have to this day. Putting aside the original Star Wars trilogy, right? Because everyone I know our age and growing up, they love the Star Wars trilogy. But looking at other movies, and even over that, my absolute favorite, I'll go 3, 2, 1. Dark Crystal. I love the Dark Crystal. For these I do collections as well, so this is what I mentioned. So the Dark Crystal, I've actually right here, I've got one of the rarest computer games of the time, which is the Dark Crystal game for the Atari 8-bits that still comes with its unused poster and everything. So I love the movie. It just captured my imagination, and it's still something that's dear to my heart now. I try and collect whatever, especially gaming related, that I can from it. My second favorite will probably have to be Goonies. I love the Goonies. That was my Saturday morning. That was my Saturday morning show. Especially if it's raining or stuck indoors, I put it on and I'll just go on a mental adventure with them every time, But my all-time favorite over everything, and I've seen this movie more times than I would even say to be recorded and quoted on, because that's how many times I've seen it, is Big Trouble in Little China. That is hands down my favorite movie of all time. Yeah. And I've got a big collection of Big Trouble in Little China, memorabilia, toys, Commodore 64 game, original movie poster from the former Yugoslavia that I was given as a gift. And yeah, I love collecting for that stuff and preserving it. And even watching the movie, I still get a kick and I laugh every time I see that movie. Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, 2 days ago I was watching it was a YouTube top 10 list of movies that didn't do well at the box office, but you should see. And Big Trouble, I think, was number 2. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
It's a great movie. I always found it strange that I never knew at the time that it wasn't a big hit. It was just like, well, it's John Carpenter. It's Big Trouble in Little China. You got Kurt Russell. Yep. Mystical stuff. What is there not to like? And it wasn't. It was that people didn't like it. It just, I think, it just got overshadowed by everything else. But it was one of these films that kicked on for ages on video. I remember seeing an interview with Kurt Russell, and he was talking about a good portion of his movies. He goes, when they were released, he said, they didn't really do well at the box office, but when they hit video, DVD, and TV, it was like everyone's seen it and everyone enjoyed it. And he was saying, it's something he ended up getting used to, because it was like, it's like if you all would have seen it at the cinemas, it would have been, billions of dollars. But all these movies people really, really enjoy, because he mentioned Captain Ron and all these other ones. So it was very, very interesting.
I love John Carpenter films and like the Kurt Russell films. The Thing is another one. I love The Thing. And I just love John Carpenter movies as well. They Live is another one of my favorite, like top 5 movies. It's just great, and something I can watch again and again and still get a kick out of.
Yeah, but like my kids, they love They Live. They've watched it that many times. They think what's his name?
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper. They love Roddy Piper. They just like. They see his whole delivery and everything else. They're like, "Oh, this guy is so cool!" I go, he's a wrestler. He was a wrestler, and they're like, "Oh, really?" So, but he's a, it's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun. So, and so different too, but also it's got a lot of truth to it. So
it does, and that's why I love it. But as opposed to just like Big Trouble, you just like. You just relax, sit back, and you said it. It's got everything. It's got romance, adventure, kung fu, mysticism. Just comedy. It's everything that I love squeezed into one movie, and it's evergreen.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was great for you to be part of the stream. So, for those of you who are watching this via the TGF Tech Games Fest UGame Plus Twitch channel stream, we are going to have all the Weird and Retro links available to you. So if you want to check that out, if you're watching this on the Cause and Effects Gamers YouTube channel many weeks after the TGF event, we will also have all those links in the description. And so, so when things change and you can go to meetups, or if you want to go visit him at future events, or you want to follow him on Twitter or Instagram, and that Twitter, he has a much bigger following. You can check all that and share your interests of weird and retro. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been great. It's been a pleasure.